great. Just give it a second. Great. Okay. And we're live.
We're live. All right.
Sweet.
We're live.
Hello.
Hey, everyone. Thanks to everyone for joining. My name is Andrew. You might know me from Discord. And I'm here with the creators of Goldfinch, Blake and Mike. And we're really excited to share with you our first community call. This is the first time I think we're interfacing with the community at large in person. And we're really excited to share more today about what we've been working on, where things are headed, the new kind of backer funding round that we've been really working hard with Almavest to set up. But in order to, and we also want to field questions that folks have been submitting. And as we go, I would encourage people to submit questions in the chat on the right, and we'll do our best to try to get to those questions a little later in the session. So to kick things off, I thought it would be a good idea for Blake and Mike to just introduce themselves and share a little bit more about their personal stories.
Cool.
Yeah, definitely.
Sure.
Sure, yeah. And by the way, Andrew, thanks for setting this up. This is our very first go at this, but it's working well, so this is great. Yeah, so I'm Mike. I am the CEO of Goldfinch, and my background is before Goldfinch was at Coinbase for a couple years running the product analytics team there. And then before that, I was at various different startups and tech companies here in the San Francisco Bay Area focused on data science. So.
Yeah, and me, I actually didn't start in tech. After college, I was doing music for a number of years, and then I got into tech later on and joined a company called Hint Health as an engineer. I was there for over 4 years, and then I went to Coinbase in 2018. I was there as a senior software engineer. And also, it's worth noting that Mike and I have known each other for a super long time. We've known each other since we were actually freshman year roommates in college. So, in about 15 years, we worked on a bunch of projects together before deciding to start Goldfinch.
Yeah. So yeah, maybe we could just share some background about Goldfinch just to kind of like set the stage here. Because we started Goldfinch with the mission of building a decentralized credit platform that empowers financial inclusion. And the real sort of like prompt behind starting this is we see just so much promise in DeFi. And I feel like it's almost been, the like financial inclusion phrase has almost been like a buzzword in crypto for a while. But we really believe it. Like, we think it's possible. We think now is the time to actually make that happen. And that was one of the reasons why we both joined Coinbase a while back, is we love Coinbase's mission of building an open financial system. We wanted to devote all of our time to making that happen. And then recently, or I should say when we started Goldfinch about a year ago, we did so because we were noticing a few big pieces in the crypto space coming together that made it possible to actually do this, like actually get towards that mission of expanding financial inclusion and access to capital around the world. And the three big pieces there were, one, seeing so much capital in the crypto space just seeking yield in terms of interest or staking or other forms of yield, and like all of this demand that's like ready to be put to work. And the second thing being the growth in stablecoins, because a lot of folks outside of the crypto space, they're not going to take a loan denominated in Bitcoin or ETH or any other token, but they will take loans denominated in US dollars, and they've been doing that for decades. And so now that we have stablecoins to work with, it's actually possible to use crypto outside in the world that's sort of beyond the crypto space. And then the third big point is seeing the expansion of exchanges that provide fiat on and off ramps around the world. So you take, for example, Binance, launched in Nigeria in early 2020. That's what allowed us to work with our very first customer, QuickCheck, in Nigeria. And so the expansion of these fiat on and off ramps make it possible for businesses around the world to start actually exchanging between the crypto they receive and their local currencies that they need to use to actually deploy it in their local markets. So these three things coming together means that, like, okay, now we can actually really go after this mission from day one of expanding access to capital all around the world.
Yeah, and I just want to add on to that, So a lot of people have asked us why we started with emerging markets, and so I wanted to talk about that for a second because, initially I think a lot of people would have assumed we'd go after maybe more crypto specific borrowers or something like that. But one thing is that we were just really excited about bringing crypto to the real world. We know that that's a 100,000x bigger market than even what crypto is now, even though it's already big. And so we really wanted to find real businesses that could use it. And as we started reaching out to our networks, we started talking with a lot of borrowers who were in emerging markets. Some of the first places we talked to were borrowers from Nigeria and Kenya and South Africa. And we started talking to them and realized they just have a huge, huge pain point. And this is really important, obviously, because crypto is a really new technology, and not every business is going to want to use something new. So you have to go to a place where they have a large pain point. And this was just so obvious. Every call we would do, we'd get off the call, and at the end of the call, the borrower would say, "Well, when can you start? Like, do you have something I can use? I'm willing to do anything." Because a lot of the capital markets in these countries just aren't as developed as they are here. And so because they don't have as deep pockets, they just don't have the same access to capital. And also the governments in these places often have high yield interest rates that crowd out investment from the banks. And the banks don't really have any interest in serving the riskier, newer companies that we're serving here. This is where we thought this is a great marrying of the ability of crypto to bring access to capital anywhere in the world and the latent yield and the demand for investing capital that Mike was talking about before and all these stable coins. And so we found this to be just a really compelling initial niche to what we believe is eventually going to be all of private credit happening on the blockchain just because of all the advantages that interoperability and a permissionless system brings. And so with that, also, I wanted to give a little bit of a history of where Goldfinch has been from when we started. So we left Coinbase in July, really excited about building this mission. And by August, we were actually building and writing our first lines of code in Solidity. And then in September, we did our first test loan with a customer, QuickCheck in Nigeria. And then by December, we had deployed onto mainnet a V1 in sort of a bit of a stealth mode. We didn't want to tell a lot of people because we wanted to, again, we were always thinking about getting the product in the customer's hands, iterating fast, and making sure we're building something that people really want. And so we had our first real loan out in December and then continued to grow the protocol. And then a couple months ago, we announced our fundraising round from Andreessen Horowitz, which we're very excited about. We're going to be continuing to grow the team and build a protocol, and now we have a lot of resources to do that. And then that brings us to, the last couple months brings us to this summer where we have a lot of exciting things happening right now. And Mike's going to share some of the updates that have been happening in the last couple months.
Yeah, going through because we've listed out all the different
stuff.
things. Okay, so I guess the big one is we now have $5.2 million deployed in loans, and this, by the way, is on the Dune Analytics dashboard, which you can access from the app site. But so a little over $5 million deployed with 4 lending partners, and these are now being used to serve tens of thousands of those partners and borrowers across 9 countries. So listing off the countries that are being served right now are India, Indonesia, Kenya, Mexico, Nigeria, Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, Uganda, and Vietnam. So all over the world, lots of people everywhere. So that's great, having capital deployed. And then the second sort of big update, which is maybe not news for a lot of folks here, but we have opened up the senior pool. So it's open to non-US investors who want to provide liquidity to the senior pool. And the cap there is 20 million, and I quickly hit that cap. But just to let you know, we are likely going to expand the cap in the senior pool in the coming weeks because we have been expanding our borrower pipeline and we have a lot of exciting deals coming up. So that leads to the third update of where the current pipeline of borrowers are. We are now in active conversations with over 20 different potential borrowers across about a couple dozen countries around the world. And so over the coming weeks, we have some exciting deals, but we need to close these deals first before we want to announce them. So that's what we're working on doing. So those are 3 of the big updates, and then Blake, you can...
And then in terms of the Eng side, we've been actively building out all the components that are mentioned in the white paper. We've made a lot of great progress there. We've completed an audit of the first components of this V2. We completed an audit from CertiK, and we also have an audit with all of that functionality getting re-audited by Trail of Bits right now, as well as new functionality that we're going to release soon. And so with that V2 functionality, we are actually going to be deploying our V2 later today, which is going to be a huge major milestone on the Eng side of things. We're really excited about that. And that deployment is what's going to allow us to fulfill the backer-funded pool that Andrew was announcing on Monday. And so that's a lot of the Eng side of things. Mike, do you want to talk about some of the stuff that's coming up next?
Yeah, so as Andrew shared a lot in Discord, we have the first backer-funded pool that has the junior and senior tranching in it. We share details with that with folks right to the non-US folks and people who express interest in the backer program. And we're going to be launching that actually open to funding on Monday of next week, which is exciting. And then other big things coming up are first the broader backer program, which is going to be kind of an educational program and a way to like help people learn how to be active as backers and sort of provide sort of information about how to do that over the course of several weeks. And so we're going to be launching the backer program. The second thing that we're doing is building everything that is in the white paper. So that lays out all of these different kind of components of the system, and we're going to be kind of like in increments launching each piece of functionality basically the moment we have it ready to ship. So rather than doing like one big package all at once, we're going to be sort of over the next number of months continuing to launch more features that are listed in the white paper. And then the third thing is more deals are going to be coming to the protocol, like this one that we shared with AlmaVest, where backers can participate. So the idea is for many deals to be coming that backers can continue to participate in, and then we want to be making it even easier over time for people to bring their own deals to the protocol so that they can start getting funded all on their own. And so those are the sort of big areas that we are focusing on in the coming months.
Yeah.
So I think that provides everything that we had planned, right? Background on the company and updates and what's coming up.
This general overview.
Yeah.
Love to start answering some questions. We got some questions from the community earlier, right?
Yep, exactly. Let's go through some of these questions. I think we'll get started with questions that were submitted via the form, and then we can transition to some of the questions that have been submitted live. Cool. We've got quite a few coming in, which I think is really exciting. Yeah.
Okay, that's cool.
So one question we've seen a lot in Discord from a number of people coming in is there going to be a token? And when is that going to happen?
Yeah, I feel like that's the good first question to answer because that tends to be something people ask. So as the white paper shares, there will be a token, GFI token. That token doesn't exist yet. It's not sort of available right now, but there will be a token. The white paper also describes the way that token will be used for governance, for staking. It'll also be a reward for all of the different participants. So that includes people who act as backers on the protocol. It includes people who act as liquidity providers on the protocol. So the answer is we don't know right now what the timing of the token is going to be, so we can't share that right now, but there will be one. It'll serve the purposes that are in the white paper, and all participants will be incentivized with it in the protocol.
That's great. One question that came in on the live stream, since we're on the topic, is: are folks who are providing liquidity now or who are staking USDC as backers, will they also be receiving any kind of governance token rewards?
They count as participants in the protocol, so like all participants will be incentivized with receiving rewards for GFI. We think, likely, yes.
Awesome. Maybe just one general question for folks is, how do I get involved in the protocol? So a lot of people are new to Discord. They've just been hearing about Goldfinch for the first time. They're curious about what they can do to contribute. It would be great to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so I think depending on how you want to contribute, there's going to be different ways. So certainly, one really large way, we have openings right now for hiring people. And if you fit one of those roles, which is engineering, design, ops, credit, then let us know, and we would love to talk to you. In terms of more community and part-time roles, again, let us know what you're interested in doing. We are really just getting the community started right now, and we, honestly, we've just been building a lot and have not been able to put as much time into the community as we would like. And that's why we're actively hiring for a community lead, someone who can help really manage and grow these efforts, because we know there's so many talented people out there who can help, and we want to be able to tap into that and start expanding who is contributing to the Goldfinch protocol. I'm also interested in the somewhat near future of open sourcing our code and starting to take contributions from the wider community. That's not live yet, but it's something I'm also interested in doing in the future.
Yeah, I would add a couple things. Again, in terms of in the spirit of us saying, okay, we should spend some more time helping us foster a community here. There's also just pitching in. Some folks already, we appreciate it in the Discord, are already kind of hopping in and helping out. And if you have any ideas of how to do that, or just want to jump in, that's great. We want to have a community of folks who are all sort of helping to build this together. And then also, in terms of how to getting involved literally with the protocol itself, there is this first deal coming up on Monday where backers can participate. So that's one thing. Another is there will be many more deals like this where backers can participate in them. And what we would love is for it to be a scenario where the folks who are looking to raise financing can share their information, and we have backers who are asking questions and assessing the opportunity. And so we want to foster that conversation and that analysis. So that's one way to get involved as a backer and participating. And then there is also participating as a liquidity provider in the senior pool. And so I think right now we're at the cap, but as we increase the cap over time, that'll be a great opportunity to participate there. So those are the two, from a financial perspective, the two primary ways are as a backer in the junior tranches of these borrower pools and as a liquidity provider that is in the senior pool. Those are the two primary ways to provide actual capital to the protocol. And then another thing I mentioned before is we're building the borrower pipeline, and we want to help people bring deals to the protocol. And so I realize this is sort of probably a subset of the potential audience, but for folks who might either know of potential deals or are running funds where they're running their own deals and might want to bring those deals to the protocol, or know folks who, specifically businesses who might be looking to raise capital, that's another great way to get involved, is sort of help us build up the borrower pipeline and kind of share with us, send over folks who might be good candidates for the protocol. So those are some other ways.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Thanks, guys. Another kind of fun set of questions that people have been asking about are basically, how are we vetting borrowers who we're letting interact with the protocol or draw down from the protocol?
Mm-hmm.
And then how are we ensuring that they repay, right? What incentives are there for them to repay, or incentives for them to not default?
Yeah. Maybe I can take the first part, and then, so how are we vetting the borrowers? I think it's worth describing what is happening literally today versus what we want to help happen in the future. So what's happening today is we're doing a lot of the same things that credit funds do, which is a traditional underwriting process. We are talking to the businesses, we are looking at their financials, we're having many conversations with the founding members of the team and the other folks who work there. We want to understand what are their business processes. We want to look at what kind of capital they have on hand, what are their plans for raising capital in the future, of their current business operations, what has been the performance to date, how have they sort of been growing, how have they had with their own lending activities, what have been their default rates. So we do a pretty detailed analysis, and we have amazing folks who are helping us. We have Rennick Pally, who's been running his own credit fund for a while. We have Sam, as Chief Investment Officer, who was previously at a credit fund called Lendable, doing exact deals just like this for the past 5 years, and at Goldman Sachs for another 5 years before that. So we have pros who have been doing this for a while, just doing a traditional underwriting process to make sure that these initial deals that are coming onto the protocol are super high quality borrowers. These are folks who have never defaulted on any prior financing they've ever received, and so making sure that we have these great borrowers in place. This is what we're doing now, but the hope in the future is that like it won't just be us doing this work. It's going to be this decentralized community that is evaluating all of these deals. And so we want to help share and explain to other folks who are going to be the backers how to do the exact same things that we're doing right now. So in the future, and by the future I mean like in the coming months, potential borrowers will share all of the information that they've been sharing with us. Instead, they'll share it with all of the backers. And then we want to help backers understand how to look at that information, how to ask these borrowers the exact same questions that we are asking them today, so that it's not just us, but it's a whole community of folks who are doing the same kind of evaluation that we're doing to decide whether to participate as a backer and provide that first loss capital in the junior tranche of these borrower pools. So we're doing all of this kind of like traditional evaluation, and then we want that to be a decentralized process where the whole community is together doing that evaluation. So that's how we are vetting the borrowers and how they will be vetted. I don't know if you want to speak to like what the assurances are against future defaults and things like that.
Yeah, so one big assurance is that we're working with companies who want to borrow again. These companies are using the money as a productive asset, and so the more money they have, the more money they can make as a company. So it's all been lending companies who are fintechs in these emerging markets. And so the fact that they require this and it is a productive asset for them means that they have a really strong incentive to want to be able to keep borrowing from the protocol. And so it's very different, than a consumer credit thing where like you give them a credit line and you actually expect them to not use all of it. In our case, when we give borrowers a credit line, they always use all of it, and that's a good thing because that means they're using the money for productive purposes. And so just that mere fact that they want to keep going, that is core to their business, is a really strong incentive to make sure they repay. Also, there really isn't a lot of there's not a huge market of places they can get capital, and so that means that and also their address is tied to their name here on chain, and so if they were to default, it's going to be known to the rest of the world that they're defaulting, which is going to hurt their ability to get credit anywhere else in the world. It's actually one of the kind of magic things about Ethereum is that it's like a credit bureau for the entire globe. And lastly, of course, we have actual legal documents with the borrowers, and so this is part of what our team is doing with them. Is they find out a solid structure that has securities built in that we could theoretically take a borrower to court if we needed to, if they weren't paying back. Now, of course, we never really expected to get there. We're working with high quality teams of people who have a long history of paying things back, but in the event that something crazy does happen, that is a kind of last resort. And we imagine that as backers are going to be looking at deals themselves, there will be probably originators or lead backers, people who are getting those legal contracts in place to make sure that everyone feels comfortable with the deals as we decentralize them. So that's a lot of the main points.
Yeah, one thing to add to this is, for example, this deal that we're going to be launching on Monday next week, all of the backers will be entering into an agreement directly with AlmaVest. And so there's something interesting there where it isn't just like one party that is having a legal relationship with the borrower, but all of the backers are going to have a legal relationship, which means that all of the backers have the ability to pursue legal recourse, and that can provide confidence to the group of backers knowing that there's potentially a community of folks who together can ensure that the borrower is held accountable in the event of a default. So just want to add that as well. I think it's we've even talked to some folks, like at credit funds, for example, who liked that model even better. They would feel even more willing to participate in some of these deals, knowing that it wasn't just them and it wasn't just up to them to ensure that the borrower is sort of like held accountable. Knowing that there is a group of backers helps actually provide more assurance that among that group, they will be able to keep the borrower accountable.
I think there's also just another key thing to understand about the structure is that with this deal on Monday and all the deals we're going to be doing going forward, we as Goldfinch, we're not involved. This is a direct relationship between the backers and the borrowers, and that's what we want to try to be building here. So we're not trying to be an intermediary.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. One thing that's been really amazing, I think, in the past couple of weeks, just to kind of change topics a little bit here, is a lot of folks have been joining Discord from all over the world, but in the last couple of weeks we had a lot of people join specifically from Russia. Shout out to Russia. I'm curious, as we evolve, do you have any thoughts in terms of how we're going to start to cater a little bit more to folks who maybe don't speak English very well? How are we going to start to localize and offer content in Russian, for example?
Yeah, I think this is it's just a key part of building a global community, right? Not everybody speaks English, and we need to make sure that our content and our ability for the protocol gets out to as many people as possible. So I think this is one of the things I'm definitely excited about doing as we get a community lead and start building things out, is having satellite community leads, people in different countries who can help build local communities and help translate the content into a form that everyone's going to understand.
Yeah, I think I saw some folks in the Discord suggesting having sort of like language specific channels, the way other protocols have been doing as well. I think we should definitely do that. We should definitely this would be another sort of like ask to the community if anyone is interested in helping to start creating these sort of like language specific channels and language specific like basically just like translating content. That will be super helpful. I don't know on the engineering side if we're set up for like different versions of the website itself just yet, but we definitely need to like focus on this and make sure we're making this accessible to everyone around the world.
Yeah, agreed.
Awesome. Another question that kind of came up that I thought was pretty great was just someone was asking if you guys would mind commenting on our growth versus the growth of Aave and Compound. I think in general, though, more broadly, I think it'd be really great to just hear your thoughts on kind of the vision for the protocol in general. If you can comment a little bit about how this compares to existing lending protocols, that would be great too.
Yeah, so I'll jump in with something there. I actually wrote a small piece kind of related to this, how the growth of a protocol like Goldfinch compares to the growth of a protocol like Compound or Aave. I was in the Defiant a few weeks ago, and it's I think we're really seeing a shift in crypto from the kind of phase one, which was a lot of, I think Compound is a canonical example there in Uniswap, where everything is anonymous, everything is permissionless, everything is also, it's very easy for it to scale. Because there's no real world component, right? It's all very crypto native. But in the future, I think we're going to be seeing, I think Goldfinch is an example of this, where crypto really needs to start pushing into the real world. As you push into the real world, what you gain is a huge amount of scale, right? Crypto itself on the global stage is actually still quite small, but business around the world and debt around the world is absolutely massive, right? Crypto is actually, it's not even like a blip on that radar. But as we start pushing into the real world, that's the scale of the opportunity that we're going after. Now, what that means, I think the trade-off there is, as you start pushing into the real world, it can't just be, go completely 1000x in 2 days. It's just not going to work like that. But we're doing the slower, harder game to tackle a much larger market. This just comes from natural frictions of working with real-world borrowers who need to do real things with the money. That stuff takes time. So what I'm imagining is the growth is going to look a little slower in the beginning, but it's going to get to far higher heights.
Yeah, we're playing in hard mode here. It's just going to take longer, but it's worth it. It's worth it to do it. And so that's thoughts on growth. And then speaking a little bit to the vision. I mean, the vision is really tied into our goal to have the protocol really be a credit platform that can provide access to capital to anyone in the world. And so where we're starting right now, what's in the white paper, is providing revolving credit lines to entities, businesses that are then lending them to their end borrowers. And the reason that we're doing that is because these businesses in their local markets are just the best equipped to actually be doing the end lending out in their local markets. So we're providing credit lines to them. However, over time, we think on the order of, say, years, then eventually the protocol can eventually start providing capital directly to the end borrowers. And to back up a second, like why we think this is going to happen is we see a couple of things happening. One is that increasingly economic activity is going to move on chain, and by that we mean people are going to start transacting with merchants. They're going to start receiving their income on chain. I think an example here is just like a number of partners we're talking to in, say, Nigeria. Many of their customers are asking for crypto accounts, and they're asking for it not to speculate in crypto, but because they view crypto as a safer place to hold on to their capital compared to the local Nigerian naira. And so as consumers start to have crypto and merchants start to have crypto, it's inevitable that they'll be transacting with each other natively. And so as more of that activity goes on chain, then we start having all these transactions that are programmable, and it becomes almost as if the Visa rails are open source, and it isn't just the huge banks that can provide capital towards these transactions, but anyone in the world could provide capital towards these transactions. And so we see eventually the protocol being able to serve these kinds of transactions. And the way to think about it is, if there's somebody who say they need to make a payment to get their car repaired or something, and the merchant is sort of verified as being a known merchant and they're receiving their income on chain, then a smart contract could feel comfortable providing capital to be directed directly to that merchant, knowing that it can automatically take the repayment out of that person's paycheck. And so when that whole flow of funds is natively on chain, then that's where crypto can really step in and fund it. And so our goal right now is we're starting now by providing these credit lines to these businesses, but eventually the credit could be provided towards not just a business, but towards a smart contract strategy or something like that that is automatically providing capital directly to the end borrowers. So that's where we see ultimately this headed, is almost it being like open sourcing existing sort of Visa rails or other kinds of like debt rails, where anyone in the world can be providing capital as a lender towards any of these transactions in the world.
Yeah, I think I'll just add is one of the really interesting things that happens when you start sending the money directly to the end borrower. And this is actually a problem that's plagued a lot of microfinance for years, which is that you have this intermediary risk where, you know, you have to give the capital to a person who then doles out the loans, which can mean that person could run away with the money. They could do various things. You could have issues there. But if you can send the money directly to that end borrower, so in the case you're sending directly to the store, because we know what the person's going to use it for, or something along those lines, you actually remove that entire class of risk. And that should hopefully eventually, you know, reduce rates and reduce risk and allow more people from around the world to be comfortable participating in the economy. So I think that's just one of the things that crypto really does uniquely that's really exciting.
Great. Thanks, guys. Maybe just to close things out, a couple more kind of rapid fire logistical questions.
Okay.
One is right now the ability to be a liquidity provider or a backer is limited to people outside of the U.S. Do you have any sense of timelines for when people based in the U.S. will be able to participate?
Yeah, I think it's like when I say timing, it's really an engineering kind of question too. But like the idea is in the U.S. It'll be open to accredited investors in the U.S. And I would say in the coming weeks. Okay. Yeah. This is in the coming weeks. Yeah.
Great. And then a lot of people have been asking when is the cap, the 20 million cap on the senior pool, going to be increased? In other words, when will that open again for liquidity providers to participate?
Yeah, that I would say weeks, not months.
Yeah.
Great. And then maybe one final and very relevant question is how can people get involved in the bar as a backer today? And a lot of people have been asking also, when is kind of the funding window going to open on Monday for the AlmaVest borrower pool? Yeah,
I almost want to turn that question back to you, Andrew, because you've been helping to manage a lot of this. Do you want to provide some of the specific logistics of it?
Yeah, sure. So we sent out an email to most folks. We've also posted a Notion page on Discord. I'd recommend people go through that. I think kind of the steps to participate as a backer in the AlmaVest pool are to number one, sign a non-disclosure agreement to get access to the AlmaVest due diligence documents. I'd also highly recommend, after you kind of sign that agreement, we'll add you to a private Discord channel, which basically involves a discussion with the AlmaVest team. I'd also recommend that everybody, if they haven't already, go through the KYC process. That's necessary in order for you to basically interact with the protocol. So it can take a couple of days in order for that registration to go through. So I'd recommend doing it as soon as you can if you're planning on participating. As for the specific time that the pool is going to open on Monday, we're still discussing that, and we'll post something out to the community probably in the next day or two, very likely on Friday. So definitely stay tuned in Discord. We're really, really excited about this first round that's having backer participation.
Yeah, major milestone, but the first of many.
Yeah.
Awesome. I think that's going to do it for our first call. Thank you to everyone who joined live. And what we'll do is post a copy of this in Discord for everybody to take a look at their leisure. Thanks so much, everybody.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I would also add one other thing. This
sure.
is our very first community call, so we would love it if you have any thoughts on how we can improve this going forward. This will be good. So just let us
please
know
just
if you have
drop it
any.
in Discord or
Totally.
wherever.
Yeah, we can iterate too. But I thought this went great. Thanks, Andrew.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, guys. Bye.
Yeah.